Guys, hello. I am Yvonne Ashton. Welcome to part 2 of our May 15th Mornings with Mayesh show. Before I get started with our interview with my super special guest, I really want to know more about you guys. Are you a farmer florist? What are you growing? Where are you located? Allie, if you could post that in the comments, that would be super, so that as people are joining us, they will see that. That would be wonderful. So today, super excited, guys. I have a super special and talented guest, Debra Prinzing. You may know Debra as she's the creator of slowflowers.com, which is a free directory that helps consumers find florists, designers, studios, and farms that supply American-grown flowers. Did you also know that she's an award-winning author and speaker? How cool is that? And she's written 10 books, contributes to many of the top publications, is a wonderful speaker, as you will soon see, and someone that inspires me in my own floral career. Her favorite quote is from Beverly Nichols. Surely, if you are privileged to own a plot of earth, it is your duty to both God and man to make it beautiful. And so with that, I am going to bring Debra on to the show. And this time I will not hit end broadcast as soon as she makes it on. Promise. I bet you've never had that kind of introduction, huh, Debra?
I feel so relieved that I'm not the only one who does those tech bloopers. Wow. It's good to be here.
Yes. Oh, it's crazy. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right.
Hi, Yvonne. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hello. So as I started before I introduced you, Debra, I just want everyone who is watching to let us know more about you. Are you a farmer florist right now? Is it something that you're interested in learning more about? If you are a farmer florist or a farmer, what are you growing and where are you located at? Share that in the comments below. We would love to hear it. Jennifer says, again, one of my favorites who always watches, hi from Huntress Florals. We're a San Diego-based wedding and event design studio. We also have a cute teeny retail shop in Mission Hills. Welcome, cool. Jennifer. But are any of you guys farmer florists or farmers? I want to know. Let us know. We want to hear. So why don't we get started by just telling us a little bit more about yourself and then also about Slow Flowers. I think that would be a great way to get started.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Where do I start? My background has always been writing. My first job out of college was at 17 magazine in New York, which of course every girl in between the ages of, 12 and 17 wanted that magazine back when I was a teenager. I don't know if it's like that now. It's probably younger, right? Now we're more sophisticated. But anyway, I've worked in print and women's magazines, fashion magazines, gardening, home, architecture, all those things. And I just learn by talking to people and learn by interviewing people. And that's just my curiosity. So about 10 years ago, the gardening topics shifted to floral. And I became really interested in a lot of the stories that the flower farmers I was meeting were telling me about kind of reviving the domestic flower farming industry. And of course, as a person who has a design background, my undergraduate degree is in textiles, I was fascinated with the unique varieties, the sort of heirloom flowers that were being grown on these boutique farms. And through those farmers, then I started meeting floral designers and hearing their interests in creating a kind of a new aesthetic that was more natural, more of the garden, and it all really resonated with me. So that kind of inspired me to start telling their stories. And I wrote a book called The 50 Mile Bouquet, which really documents that movement. And we weren't even calling it Slow Flowers per se, but when I was working on The 50 Mile Bouquet about 10 years ago, first of all, no one knew what that meant, right? The 50 Mile Bouquet. And I borrowed from the food industry. There was a term called the 100-mile diet, which was about 10 years ago, the whole idea about sourcing your food locally, and growing your own wheat and making your own bread and all that. So I would say to people, it's like slow food, but consider it slow flowers. And people in the culinary world, and especially on both coasts, kind of got it. Now that concept of slow food, at least, has swept the nation. And I'm hoping that Slow Flowers follows along and it just sort of was a shorthand and a synonym or a kind of metaphor for letting people know all that I'm interested in. And I'm so glad you asked people what they're growing. You know, I'm finding that there's farmer florists, right? They're growing, and then they're trying to embrace design as a way to differentiate themselves and build their brand. But there are so many florists who are now saying, shoot, I'm going to grow some of those, you know, David Austin roses and save them for making something special in a bridal bouquet. I might only have 3 stems, but that's going to be like the sweet ingredient. So florists are kind of moving in that direction, and maybe in a small way. They're not going to have acres, but they're going to have a cutting garden.
Yeah, so just a perfect example of that is Dana says she's a backyard micro farmer florist.
Hi, Dana.
I like that. I like that word, micro.
Yeah,
that would probably be what I would be if I was any kind of farmer. Would be a micro one.
Well, I don't think anyone can live without a Mayesh and live without a wholesale source, because if you're doing anything in you know, ambitious, or you know, you need reliability or uniformity, or you know, you need a plan. The Mother Nature doesn't always play along, and so you know, you need to work with a partner like Mayesh. But everybody's kind of juggling that mix and trying to find what they can grow themselves or source from a local farmer, and then you know, maybe direct, and then what they can work with a larger wholesale partner to, you know, achieve what their big ambitious goals are for their clients.
Right. Yeah. I also have someone else who's watching, Gina, and she says,
hi, Gina.
Yeah, I'm sure you know who are her. But they're an online flower shop sourcing Colorado and American grown flowers. They are a Slow Flower member. They love Debra, and they went to the Slow Flower Summit last year, which is so cool.
Yeah, that was really great. When we had the summit, we'll talk about this more, but we had the summit in Seattle last summer, and I don't know, I just was so touched by people like Gina, who came from another state, and we probably had people from 15 states coming to that one-day conference, and I know that was a sacrifice and a, you know, personal stretch for some people, and she came from Colorado, which was really amazing.
Yeah, I love it. Love it when people travel to come and visit and see what you have to say. It makes you feel so humble and
it's like what you said about the Design Star workshops. Yeah, I got to attend the one with Christy Halsey in Portland last year, and we all have to take a pause away from the computer, away from the studio, and do something to change what our eyes see. And I loved that.
Yeah, love it. So tell us, how did you become so obsessed about local, seasonable, sustainable flowers in the first place? How did you all that?
It's so funny. To be perfectly honest, every writer I know in the garden writing world, and I'm the past president of the Garden Writers Association, I have lots of peers who make their living writing about gardening. We all want our own milieu. We all want our own niche and something to differentiate ourselves with, right? And I was kind of a garden variety garden writer. I wrote about design, but I didn't have like an expertise. And at one point I was so frustrated about, 15 years ago, I thought, I need my niche. And so I decided it was going to be blue flowers. And I ordered every book available on botanical flower, you know, any flower that happened to bloom blue, which is like, there's a very small collection of those. That was ridiculous. So that didn't quite fit. and then I did my big girl book called Stylish Sheds and Elegant Hideaways, which was published by Clarkson Potter exactly 10 years ago, exactly when the economy tanked and people couldn't even afford to renovate their houses, let alone put a $50,000 shed in their backyard. But I thought I was going to be like the shed queen, like, you know, build my brand on that. And, you know, it was a great book and I won awards for it, but it just didn't quite, maybe because I'm not an architect, it didn't take off. But then when I started meeting people like Erin Benzacane from Florist, who I met, 2006, when she was just a young mom growing sweet peas, and Diane Sukhavati and Dennis Westfall from Jello Mold Farm. And Diane is actually one of the farmers on the cover of the 50 Mile Bouquet. When I started hearing their stories and starting to understand what they were up against in terms of creating a market for local flowers, that just triggered something in me. And I felt like I was at the forefront of a story that I could be like the embedded journalist and follow along and be present at all these amazing chapters in this book. And so I think the reason it caught my, other than the fact that like it was a brand that I could become an expert in, it also was personal because I'm a lifelong gardener and I grow tons of flowers and I do floral arranging from my garden. And I just saw that there was a way to connect with consumers and get them excited about the stories behind the flowers too. Because when I speak as a gardener, that I'm credible. People can relate to that and say, oh, I can grow those dahlias. I don't need 10 acres. I can just do it in a raised bed.
Right.
So I connect with, I have, that world is still very important to me, the gardening world.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Since you're so connected and obviously one of the, I feel like, leaders of American grown flowers, what have you seen in terms of changing consumer attitudes towards local and American grown?
I think that it's baby steps and incremental, but I definitely think that the idea of where do flowers come from is moving into the mainstream. Not for everybody, but it's definitely incremental. I'm hearing more, and whenever I interview a florist, I ask them about their own sourcing practices, and then I ask, what are your clients asking for? Are your brides and your couples coming to you with a question about, what's seasonal, what's local, who grew it? Increasingly, I'm hearing that that's the case. It's not the majority, but it's definitely stepping up. I was just in my local Safeway, and I swear, for the first time ever in my whole life of shopping at Safeway, they had a sign that said local tulips, and they actually listed the farm that it was from. And I flipped out. I thought, okay, this is epic, because this giant big box retailer or grocery store is embracing the fact that consumers want to know where their flowers are come from. I'm sure that everybody has a story like that. Right. It's dipping into the mainstream, even in media. Last year on an episode of Madam Secretary, Russell Jackson, who's the chief of staff for the president, was on a treadmill talking to some unknown person, and his line was, if you want your flowers on the first lady's table, make sure they're American grown. And I have a screen grab of that. I was like, oh, feeling so validated that, network TV mentioned American grown flowers. So it's happening. And I'd love to know what the listeners are experiencing too, because I know you're noticing it too, Yvonne. It's along with everything else in our lives, we're making conscious choices as consumers. And if our clients are doing that, offering that option as a florist to say, I have relationships with the wholesalers and farms that do provide American grown. It's a way to, I think, just change up the conversation a little bit and maybe differentiate yourself from the next person making a bid.
Yeah, exactly. And, obviously, especially when we've seen what you were doing and some of the other organizations, we've always carried American grown flowers and always worked really closely with all of our U.S. flower farmers and all of that. We love that product and our customers love that product. But then we realized there was a little bit of a disconnect because everything, you're just in a big cooler of flowers. You don't really know what's what. You might know that most of our roses are from South America and this and that, but you don't really realize what is American grown. So we've been trying to do a better job within our own branches of, helping educate people and let them know that we always have American grown flowers. It's just, these are what they are. Now we have big banners and things like that. And we try to encourage people to kind of, our own people to kind of put that product together and at least make sure that our reps know like what's what as well, because it's a lot. We carry thousands and thousands and thousands of different kinds of products, so it's a lot.
It's a lot of vendor relationship management, and some people frankly are dialing it in, and I really credit to Mayesh. I feel like on a corporate level, but also in every single branch, there's some little unique product that there's a story behind, and the staff get excited about saying, oh, these dahlias were grown by our friend up the street, and we've got them, and we're going to take good care of them and have them in, beautiful condition when you come into shop. So I love that.
Exactly. We love it too. And then on the flip side, we have, all of our branches now have Instagram accounts, so that way they can kind of show off what they're carrying and things like that. So, for example, Portland just posted this amazing, I think it was 5 foot, I don't know if it was eucalyptus or some other kind of green. It was some kind of green.
I gotta look at it now.
Yeah, it was huge. And as soon as I saw it, I messaged my husband. He's the Miami manager. And I was like, can you guys get this, or is this only for Portland? And he's like, yeah, this will be one of those items where like everyone across the country is all mad that they can't get, because we only get so much from our local farms, and it doesn't make sense to ship it all the way across the country.
Yeah, that's a term that our friend Lisa Wad from Flower House Detroit would say, you're frothing at the mouth.
Right. Yes. Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun to show off all of that local product. But we, got to keep in mind it only makes sense sometimes that it is local. So
we're just coming off lilac season, and there's nothing more significant to me. A touchstone of spring are those luscious armloads of lilacs, and that's a product that is fine if it's only available 4 weeks of the year. Let's just enjoy it then. And the analogy of the tomato, right? It's going to taste best when it's right off the vine at the peak of summer. And that's when the lilacs are, we bring back memories and define time and place. And let's just enjoy it then. We don't need it in December. So that's my other argument.
Love it. Love it. So what have you seen in terms of changing focus on product sourcing from among florists, retailers, and wedding and event designers?
Well, we kind of touched on this a little bit. I feel like it's sort of a pebble in a pond approach, I think. First of all, I don't want to be like the Slow Flowers police and critique anybody for their sourcing practices, because it is so, it's a complex puzzle that florists have to, kind of navigate and put together. But as you start developing relationships with your sources, I think that's when you start finding out about product that maybe you're the first one to find out about it, or I've seen some really interesting partnerships between florists and sort of boutique growers in their community, where the grower is actually custom growing a palette for a bride. You have to obviously plan ahead for that, but if you can say, if the florist can say, I've just met with my client, her palette is going to be apricots and burgundies, and what can you grow that for sure we'll be able to harvest next June? That is, not only is that amazing and astounding that it brings the farmer into the artistic discussion, it also is something unique that the florist can offer to the customer and say, look, I'm going to have these custom grown for you. That's how special these flowers are. And I think there's a value add for that. I think that there's a way to say, we're not selling the cheapest farmer grown, kind of commodity product. We're selling a couture ingredient. And when there's a story attached to it, then there's this, I think, I don't want to say upcharge, but there's this validity in the fact that you're paying fair price to give the farmer a living wage and to give the florist a living wage. So
right. Yeah.
So and I think, I think also when the pebble in a prod approach goes to this idea that you may not be able to get something locally, but you might be able to work with a partner like Mayesh, who can pull product for you and send you American grown product, probably mostly from California, but maybe from other states like Oregon and Washington, or Florida. Yeah. Or, if you want ferns and foliage, get it from Florida. Want tropicals, get it from Hawaii. There's lots of ways to continue that year-round dialogue of I source from domestic farms when I can't get it locally.
Right.
And I try to write about that a lot, especially for this series I'm doing for Florist Review called How I Do It. And I'm glad that one of the listeners said she's got a retail store. I'm constantly looking for unique, independent retail florists, often in tough markets, like Helena, Montana, or Grand Rapids, Michigan, or, Hudson Valley, New York, places where there's snow on the ground in the winter. And I'm trying to ask them, what are you doing? Who are you partnering with? How are you sourcing? Because I think it helps everybody think creatively about maybe changing it up on their sourcing practices.
Right. Yeah. Do you have metrics that you want to share with us too about changing focus and things like that?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, sometimes we need the metrics, right, to validate.
Right. I love metrics and numbers, and
right.
I'm an analyst.
Yeah, a couple things. One is, if people think slow flowers is just a trend, I've been gathering the metrics of hashtag use, and in the last 365 days, there have been like 52 million impressions of the hashtag slow flowers in Instagram and Twitter alone.
Wow.
Thank you all for using that hashtag. It's out of my hands. Like, I own the trademark, but I can't control the fact that, and I don't want to control the fact that this has just got a life of its own. And so that's confirmed. I think that hashtag is actually stronger than local flowers and American grown flowers. It's because it symbolizes both. Maybe it's a little bit more of an umbrella term. But then even on like government statistics, the USDA did a study a few years ago on the most value-added crop for small-scale farms. And when they define small-scale farms, it's farms with under $500,000 in gross revenue, which almost every farm I know is under $500,000, unless they're a mega farm. And floriculture was the number one value-added crop above livestock, above vegetables. And I love that statistic because I feel like there's a little bit of this pendulum swing after 9/11 in gardening, and it probably has always been there in farming. Like, if you're not growing food, you're not legit. And I want to say, but when you talk about sustainability, it's also whether that farm can sustain a livelihood. And if that means growing flowers instead of carrots, that's okay. They're being smart business people trying to, grow a crop that has a value above a commodity level. So that's definitely happening. And we're waiting for the 2017 USDA floriculture report. The USDA does a floriculture survey every 5 years, like a census. And so the most recent one that's been published was from 2012, but the 2017 report should be published this year. There's a little delay, obviously, but between 2005 and 2012, there was a 16% increase of farms saying that they're growing flowers, domestic farms. I predict that percentage is going to bump up for 17. We'll have to see. I'll keep you posted on that. And I think you're seeing it too, Yvonne. You're working with more domestic farms than ever before at Mayesh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. More domestic farms, and then also the farmer florist too. We see a lot of those coming our way too. So it's an amazing phenomenon that's just kind of taken off, and it continues to grow. And I don't think it's really can be called a trend anymore. It's just something that's part of our life.
I try to call it a cultural shift.
Yeah,
so
it really is.
Because a trend is one of those words that kind of implies that it has a beginning and an end. And I feel like this is just a shift that we got very far away from where our flowers come from over the last 2 decades. And now, thanks to my efforts and the efforts of so many farmers and florists, and just this sort of, and thank God for Instagram. I honestly think that social media has driven this. You showed those mood boards, and like, I don't know how many florists say to me, I'm so, it's a love-hate thing with Pinterest, right? Like, how many cafe au lait dahlia wedding bouquets can one bride bring me, You can't ship cafe au lait very well. It has to be a local product.
Yeah,
that's been a little plus, I think, for anybody who wants to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah, for sure. Also, just to touch a little bit on kind of how far it's come is Christy, and I remember this now that she's saying it, because our own Christy from last year was part of this, but a group of them designed the First Ladies Luncheon, and it featured all American grown flowers. So I think that's really cool. And
actually this is the 3rd year that's happened. I got to be at the first volunteer for the first year, which was Michelle Obama's last year as First Lady. And what I thought was so amazing is that every place setting, there was a little card that said flowers courtesy of America's flower farmers. And there was one right at Michelle Obama's plate. And I'm sure there was one right at Melania Trump's plate. And just to have that, like, in your face, flowers are beautiful. But, oh, by the way, American farmers grew these, I think is really symbolic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Good job, Christy. And I know I talked with Kelly Shore and Mary Kate Canane, the co-chairs, yesterday when they were designing, and they were hyped up. It was It was an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
It's a long day.
Yeah, of course. Aren't they all when it's like a big event like that and high profile? Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you publish an annual Slow Flowers forecast each January, and you've done so for the past 4 years. How do you track trends and predictions that influence the slow flower community?
Right. Even though I just said I didn't want to use the word trend.
I know. That's hard to avoid sometimes.
Yeah, I say forecast because, you know, I was a business reporter for 10 years back when my kids were young. And every January we had to do a forecast. And so it kind of got embedded in it's almost like a prediction, right? But I think it's very similar to what you're doing with your guests, Yvonne, that you spend a whole year talking to people, interviewing people about what is new with them. And these themes bubble up to the surface and they just become kind of top of mind, prevailing ideas. And so right now I'm already looking at what I'm going to publish in January. And it's so interesting because some of the things that we're all seeing now were in my very first report. And one of them was that the farmer florist phenomenon about 4 years ago, where I said there's this two sides, they're coming together. Farmers are designing, and florists are growing. So, you know, this year, for example, I've been tracking two things, one in 2017 and one for 2018. They both are kind of parallel issues where people who have been out of retail floristry are getting into retail floristry. So I call it the return of brick and mortar. And there is this sort of new style of florist who's creating a dynamic retail space that maybe is a co-space with a fashion company or with a coffee company or some kind of other design style business that becomes a collaborative gathering place. And yes, there's flowers there, but there's something more than just the cookie cutter flower shop. And then this year I've been watching farmers create retail pop-ups and get involved in unique kinds of retail ventures, like landlords are coming to them and saying, we'll design a kiosk for you, or we'll create a cart and have it in the courtyard of an office tower, or we'll just you know, create a lifestyle space and we want flowers in it. So I think that's exciting because that's getting out in front of the consumer. So really I'm just gathering ideas as I talk to people. I love it if anybody who's on here sees a trend or a insight. Let me know kind of what's exciting for you, and because I got to get that list pulled together really soon. You know, now that I've done it for 4 years, these ideas are getting a little bit more refined. They're very specific because it might be even a crop that is having a renaissance, like bearded iris, for example. Like that flower's been around forever, but it's just getting kind of elevated in the design community. And so now if I put that in my forecast, and I don't know if I will or not, but if I do, it will maybe influence florists to seek out farmers who are growing that crop, and maybe will influence farmers to add that crop and mix it up a little bit in terms of what they're offering. So it could be varieties, it could be ways to deliver product to the consumer, and it could also be services that, you know, like the whole workshop phenomenon. I mean, look at you're living that out right now. It's just, people want to connect with the experience, and so that's been an ongoing theme as well of the report. I'm really lucky because last year Florist Review invited me to join their editorial team as a contributing editor, and having a connection with a print trade magazine and the largest and most sort of established independent Floral Industry Magazine is like all of a sudden giving me this conduit for sharing these ideas as well. It's a privilege. So I'm able to put those in the articles too.
And I think that's amazing. And I have a couple things to say. So first, with the Florist Review, I know I've brought it up a few different times, and I think most of our recent shows. And so if you guys haven't checked it out, I'm not a contributor to Florist Review. I do have a relationship with them. We just did a really big shoot in Italy and provided a lot of the flowers for Sue McCleary, and I think Hitomi was there. So
I've been seeing that on their Instagram feeds, Yvonne. That's going to be amazing.
It's pretty exciting, but you guys got to check out the magazine. I know the magazine world for flowers got a little dull for a little bit. I get that. But you know, Travis took it over, and he's been doing a lot of things to revamp it and getting contributors like Debra, and I know a lot of different people, and having guest contributors, and the articles I think are just more engaging. So I just hope you guys.
They're timely.
Yeah.
And if anybody hasn't subscribed, you can always go to floristreview.com and under subscribe and request a free sample copy. They are happy to send that out and, give you, a chance to really dive into the pages and read, like Allison Ellis. You just had her on as a guest. She's got a column every month. And, like you said, guest designers, that's all the people that are in our world are starting to pop up in the pages of Florist Review. So
so they're doing a really great job, and I'm not trying to be a salesperson or anything, but if there's something that I really love, I'm hoping to share that with you guys. So Florist Review is one of those. The other thing I wanted to ask you, Debra, is I know you mentioned that you're looking for suggestions. How do they get those suggestions to you?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Well, maybe I'll make sure that you have all my social places, Yvonne, so people can reach out to me. But my main website for my podcast is debraprinzing.com, and you can just email me through the contact page. And I'd love to hear from people. I feel there's a couple things that I hear most often from people is, how do I find flowers that I want, right? Which is the whole point of slowflowers.com. But how do I get published? How do I get my story out there? And I feel like sometimes I'm a one-woman PR agency for Slow Flowers members, because that's the number one thing we're all seeking is showing our unique point of view as creatives with the world. And we can do a lot of that through free outlets like our own blogs and through social media channels, but there's still that legitimacy of being written about by someone else. And so we should just do a whole episode on that sometime. But the number one thing, and I don't think this is going to come as any surprise to anybody on today, is honestly having amazing photography that you can offer to a publication is your number one, and it should be your number one investment. That means I think that's validated by the number of people who are participating in styled shoots, who are collaborating with other creatives, stylists, photographers, vendors, creating their own editorial story, because there are editors hungry for that content. And print is a little bit in a crisis in terms of, advertising dollars for print are down, so budgets are getting cut. I wouldn't say Florist Review is like in any crisis mode. Florist Review is on an upswing because the trade magazine in a niche is a little bit different. But say gardening magazines, lifestyle magazines, bridal magazines, consumer magazines, if you can take a story with beautiful photography to an art director or editor or publisher, it'll pay off. And you'll know what kind of look they want if you look at the magazine and study it for a while. You do need to do your homework. Sometimes I get pitches and I'm like, why did you think I wanted to write about a lawnmower? Did you ever read my blog?
Oh, I get those too. I'm like, you don't even know who you're reaching out to.
Right. No. But I'm often in a position to connect people up with editors, and I really put my energy into supporting Slow Flowers members, because that's part of the value of being involved in my community. But especially with Florist Review, I think if you go onto the Florist Review website and look at the editorial calendar, you'll see the future themes. If you subscribe to the Florist Review mailing list, you will be part of their monthly question that gets sent out to subscribers and readers. I don't quite think it's differentiated. I think if you're on that mailing list, you'll get it. And that monthly question they collect all the answers and they get published. And it's a way to start engaging with the editors. I think the question that was asked for the June issue that's coming up was like, how does science and technology influence you as a floral designer? Like, that's pretty wide open. You can answer that in many different ways. And there were some really fascinating questions that came in, and I just was reading it, like probably 30 people got quoted in that story. So sometimes it's just becoming available and creating a relationship with a publication.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So, maybe you guys should do a Mayesh magazine, and then I could help you with that.
I would love that. That would be amazing. I don't know if you've seen any of our recent like brochures, if you want to call them that, but they're more like books now, more like a magazine, because
it's a digital
inspired
publication.
By that. Yeah, and it's just, I want it to be beautiful. I don't want it just to be like Mayesh this and Mayesh that. I want it to be more engaging now and be beautiful. And we do invest in photography and videography now a lot more than when I first started. And so we want to be able to use those materials. And so
you're using
one way to do that.
And you're using your photography and your storytelling in more of an editorial way, as opposed to a catalog-y way. And I think people respond to that. That's your brand is also the visuals. So no, I agree.
Huge.
I love that. And I see a lot of incredibly talented designers who are doing that. And I've had people call me and say, hey, I did this shoot. I don't know what to do with it. Will you look at it? And I often can point them in the direction of getting it plugged in with a publication. And it can be, the other thing is like, what's better, print or online? Because online actually is more evergreen. And, so if somebody offers to blog about you, don't turn that down. It may be just as valuable as a press clip than just from a magazine.
And it doesn't even have to be anything big, like, for example, Christy Halsey, our design star from last year, she had like a small image of bud vases that got featured on marthastewart.com for, I think, spring weddings or something like that. And so, I mean, that's huge. It's Martha Stewart, so many eyeballs there. And it wasn't anything, it was part of a shoot that they did, but it was a very small part of it that they decided to feature, And
so, you never know.
No, you just never know. And it's, you just got to kind of put yourself out there. And again, like what you said, just make that investment.
And just being responsive and, saying yes to those requests, that helps you. Look, I have an editor who I have helped at least 5 times in the last year. It has not gotten me anything, but I'm always, if he asks me for a suggestion or a resource, I always give it, because I know that's going to lead to something down the road.
Right. And you yourself produce a lot of content, from podcast and blog to print and digital stories for Florist Review. Can you tell us about your floral journalism and what gets you excited about writing and interviewing someone for a story?
Oh my gosh, that is, honestly, I'm one of those people, like I mentioned earlier that I learned by interviewing people, I learned by writing. Right. I also have this tendency to become like best friends with whoever I write about. So my whole social environment are people I've probably written about before, because you really get to know somebody, right? And you make a personal connection that maybe doesn't make it onto the page of the article, but you feel a fondness for that. But pretty much I'm writing about the people behind the story, the farmer, the florist, the couple, the artist. It's interesting. I just had a conversation yesterday with a garden editor friend of mine, and he is getting involved with a new gardening publication that has a policy of not showing the people who own the garden in the photo shoots. And that is, I don't get that at all. Like, I mean,
we just started our like spotlights, and we want to show the people that are behind the scenes. That's like, I think it's wonderful to make those connections. So that makes me sad.
Yeah, and I mean, I really think I have, my pet peeve is when I go on someone's website and I don't see their photo. And I also, my other pet peeve is when I only see their first name. Put your last name in there, people. You know, there's a lot of that hesitancy to put yourself out there, right? And not feel like you're bragging. But I think that there's so much permission being granted now to tell your story. So when I do the podcast interviews, I've just finished my 250th podcast, which is freaking amazing.
Well, listen, I know how much work goes into these things. You guys, like, we don't just show up and go. Like, there's a lot of planning, a lot of editing, a lot of downloading and uploading and slicing and mixing. So you have
to love it, Yvonne. You do. And
I do.
We talked about this before we went live last week, that just this this platform of podcasting is really an intimate one, and people put their earbuds in and they listen much longer than they would read a blog. You know, it has a wonderful life. So I've been privileged to start that blog almost 5 years, or that podcast almost 5 years ago, at a time when there weren't any other floral industry podcasts. And so I've just been able to interview, you know, amazing people, and also people who have humble beginnings and small stories. And we've been able to do some, like, where are they now follow-up episodes. And then, you know, as I said, I write for Florist Review, and my section is called Slow Flowers Journal. And so that actually came out of an online magazine that I started in January of 2017 called slowflowersjournal.com, which still exists. And I still post up there all kinds of things as an online magazine. But then it's sort of the sister digital version of the print. And then, you know, I'm also constantly writing for other publications too, and as often as possible, especially with my garden publications like Country Gardens and Garden Design. I'm always like trying to maneuver a farmer florist story into those publications. And like sometimes they'll be like, Debra, we've published 6 farms this year. That's enough. I don't know. It's a great niche to be in because it has design and it has growing or gardening.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think I answered your question very well, but
I still love the answer, so that's okay. But Penny, just to go back to your blog, Penny wants to know, how did you start your blog? Do you have
Oh gosh. Well, you know, when my book came out 10 years ago, my stylish sheds and elegant hideaways book, I'm going to show it to you. Hang on.
I love show and tell.
It just happens to be on my bookcase. Okay, so this is the book. Unfortunately, it's out of print, but this book, when it came out, it was 2008, and I was like, damn it, I better start a blog. And I had a website. You know, anybody who was a professional speaker had a website. So I started, I got it was pre-WordPress. It was just some kind of custom template that my web guy put in. And so if you go on DebraPrinzing.com, you can go back to 2000. I think my first post was in 2007.
Wow.
I know. But I know, really? I'm old. but there's a lot of content, I'll say, on that site. And you know, it's a lot of it is in the early days was about architecture and gardening. I wrote about architecture for the Los Angeles Times, off and on for 8 years. So there's a lot of beautiful architectural stories in there. But pretty much in the last 5 years, it's been slow flowers focused, especially because that's where my show notes exist for the podcast. But you know, blogging it's interesting. It had its heyday. If anybody remembers Julie and Julia, that whole book about Julia Child, that was the hot period of food blogging. And I think that people really had abandoned blogs because of just the length of time that it takes to write and post. But I was so inspired by Allison Ellis, and I don't know if she talked about this when she was on with you a couple weeks ago, Yvonne, but she has really validated blogs for me and given me the confidence to remind people that a blog is your own and you own that content, and it will not disappear, where Facebook and Instagram, like the VHS, could disappear someday. And I felt kind of reassured that the time I put into blogging is worth it because of that. And there are times where, honestly, and I use my blog for this a lot, if I do a photo shoot for a magazine and I spend 12 hours on location and there's like 100 beautiful photos and 6 get into the print version, I'm like, damn it, I'm posting those others on my blog, and I'm going to write the behind the scenes Debra Prinzing story, not the one that got whittled down by the editor. And I just take license with that and say, we all can do that. We all can tell our own point of view. I love the behind the scenes posts. I think those are some of the most popular.
I agree. And then just to go back to the whole social media and blog thing, I mean, obviously that's a huge thing for me and my team, something that I've talked about when I do public speaking about social media and content marketing. Is your blog is, a funnel into your business. Social media is great, and it's a way to talk about what is on your website. Social media shouldn't be just social media marketing. It's really about content marketing, and social media is a vehicle for the content that you're creating, but you need a home for all that content. It shouldn't just be on Facebook or Instagram. It needs to be on your website too. So,
right. You're doing such a good job with that, with I don't know. I'm so impressed with the technology. You said you want an Allie. I want an Allie and an Yvonne. just the way that, you're able to present a lot of content on your landing page, which then gives people a choice to navigate into, various channels that they can go deeper into. I think that's, I'm working on a rebranding for, Slow Flowers. It'll take a while, but that's kind of my vision too. How can you present a lot of information at a glance and give people choices to navigate deeper? And I think you guys do that really well.
Yeah, to navigate deeper and then get into your CRM or some type of system, so that way you can kind of monitor when they're coming back or when they look like they're ready for more, more of you. I'm not like in your face kind of salesperson. I like to be more of an inbound, organically grown.
Yeah.
And so
it's more relational.
Yeah. And content in your website is a way to do that and to do it well and to be able to, track it and have metrics and stuff. But again, that's another whole show.
Yeah. Don't ask me about that, because I'm all about the organic, which to me means just let it happen. Not necessarily, great, but it's what I'm capable of. So
yeah. But if you guys want more about that, let me know, and we can definitely talk about that, because it's a big passion for sure. Can tell. Summer is something that doesn't have anything to do with that. She wants to know about the light kit. And I talked about, I forget, a couple episodes ago, but we'll post the link for that because it's definitely up on the blog that I buy, and that's on right now. So that way, because it's it's sunny right now, but it's been really gray and rainy lately because, it's starting to get that time of year for Miami. Lots of rain. All right, back on track. You have 2 big events coming up in late June. Can you tell us about American Flowers Week first and what it is and how people can get involved with that?
Yes. So I'm just going to hold up a couple graphics just to help people have a visual. This is just to remind you what American Flowers Week is. And you see on here the dates are June 28th through July 4th. And I started this campaign 4 years ago. After meeting the people behind British Flowers Week, when I was over at the Chelsea Flower Show in 2015, they do theirs in, it's been various, first, second, or third week of June. It's a little bit earlier, and I certainly didn't want to compete with them, but they were like, Debra, you should start American Flowers Week. And when I had that meeting, it was in the middle of May of 2015. Jimmy, Laura, and Jonathan were actually with me from Green Center. And they're like, Debra, which is in Pittsburgh, and they're like, yeah, you should do this. And they kind of goaded me, and we started very grassroots. Now
I love them, by the way. I went to dinner with them in Cleveland. They came to Cleveland for, I think, the workshop. And
they know Christy, Jonathan Weber. Sorry, I spaced on his last name. Yeah, they were kind of egging me on, as we all need friends to egg us on, because I kept thinking, I should wait till the next year. But I came home, and in 6 weeks I pulled this thing together. And really, the exciting thing is it's just a grassroots social media campaign to promote American grown flowers. The dates are a little wacky because July 4th changes, every year to a different date. So I just say June 28th to July 4th. It's the 7 days leading up to Independence Day. And the reason I chose that is I felt like it was symbolic for Independence Day, very American. Mm-hmm. It's also a time of year when there are flowers growing in all 50 states, because we know that our friends up in Alaska have their peonies in July. So I felt like that was really relevant. And there traditionally hasn't been a lot going on in the floral space over July 4th. I'm hearing that there are more and more weddings over July 4th. So maybe I'll eat my words on that. I don't know. What do you think? And is it a busy time for you guys at Mayesh over July 4th?
Or over July 4th is typically a little bit slower. It's a little too hot almost for weddings too. I feel bad for all the people dressed up. Yeah. So it slows down a little bit, I feel like, around that time.
Yeah. So kind of presented a way to like rev up the excitement about flowers, and a vehicle or platform for anybody to take this idea and create their own event. They create their own social media content, and I just encourage them to post and use the hashtag American Flowers Week. And last year we had over 5 million impressions just in the weeks leading up to and including American Flowers Week. So we've had people do pop-up stores, people do styled shoots, people have farmer florists DIY parties, which are really fun. It's a way to engage both your customer or your peers in playing with flowers. And Mayesh is a sponsor this year, so I'm really happy that you're supporting it, and we're getting ready. And can I just show a sneak peek of what we did?
Yeah.
Okay. So last year, and tell me, Yvonne, when we're running out of time.
We're good. We're good.
Okay, great. In 2016, our beautiful fashion identity for American Flowers Week was designed by Susan McCleary. It was a red, white, and blue floral fro with one of her favorite models, Monique, who she's used before for some of her other style shoes. And that was one fashion look. And that was our graphic that we let people download and use. And
Love it.
The media picked it up. So last year I thought, let's do some floral fashions. And this was an idea really from the people in the UK, because they had done, they do flower specific commissions with designers. And one designer had done a dress when it was on a mannequin. I'm like, well, let's put a dress on a real model. So this year is our big reveal. It's going to be in the June issue of Florist Review. And
do you want me to?
Do you have those?
Yep.
Okay, let's do that. I was just going to say, this is the magazine, and this is the June issue. So you'll be getting that in your inbox really soon. And I have some graphics that that's right, Yvonne. I gave you those American Flowers Week graphics. Let's use those. They'll be cleaner than me holding up a glossy magazine. So I basically worked with 5 teams of florists and farmers to create floral fashion. See, this is what we would call. Oh, that's okay. We would call this. Yeah, that's enough. It gives you a taste of it. This is our foraged, 100% foraged woodland gown created by Carly Jenkins, who's a farmer florist in Missoula, Montana. I can't even say who the farmer is because she literally got this stuff off the forest floor. So moss and lichen, and then the collar and cuffs, that gauntlets are deconstructed pine cones.
Wow.
So this is, and the thing is, the reason I wanted to do a woodland commission and have a woodland fashion is that's like uniquely American. Like, nobody's going to be harvesting woodland stuff from another continent and shipping it here. This is really our, especially where I am in the Pacific Northwest, this is like our distinctive, and it's very local. So Carly does kind of a Game of Thrones vibe, and this girl is fierce, and I can't wait for you to see the whole photo shoot. So let's see the next one.
Amazing. Oh, here, sorry, I was clicking the wrong button. There we go.
Okay, so this is our peony shoot. It looks a little crazy, but it's an homage to two things in Homer, Alaska. One are the peonies, and the other is the fishing industry. This was cooked up by our sponsoring farm, Scenic Place Peonies, which is owned by Beth Van Sant and Kurt Wyhand, and they hosted the Field to Base dinner at their farm last summer in Homer and in July, and Kelly Shore of Petals by the Shore was the featured floral designer for that. So Kelly and Beth started talking about what could they do for American Flowers Week and blend peonies and fishing. And they came up with this idea of a peony catch. Like you just caught these in a net. And I got to be there for that photo shoot. And it's really beautiful. And it really is uniquely Homer. The model, Ashley Johnson, was an intern on the farm last summer, and she got talked into modeling and did a wonderful job. But anyway, that's going to change how you consider peonies. And these peonies are like enormous. Of course, when they're from Alaska, the bloom is enormous. So that's our Alaska look. And this is our dahlia look. The dahlia dress was designed with dahlias grown by Kate Rowe of Aztec Dahlias, she's in Petaluma area in North Bay, Sonoma County. And the designer, she's the farmer. And then the designer is Hedda Brorstrom of Full Bloom Farm. And she's in that same area. She's a farmer florist. The unique story, and back to the story, these ladies put this together and photographed it in October during the wildfires that were sweeping through Sonoma County. And they were determined to do this photo shoot. Even though literally when they weren't photographing the model, they were sending me photos of everyone wearing face masks. That's how much smoke was in the air.
Wow.
But this skirt is gorgeous. It's built on a frame of a base of chicken wire, but what's holding it out is a hula hoop attached inside the chicken wire to create that beautiful, full wide look. And then the bodice is all herbs from Hedda's farm. So
cool.
That's a
love it.
Yeah. This is an iris dress. Look, I would say irises are hard, and I wanted to showcase a flower that maybe has fallen out of favor and that isn't considered like a high design. Just like last year we did a sunflower gown. We want to elevate these flowers to the level of fashion to just spark the conversation about how special they are. And so Faye Krause of Flora Organica Design, who's in Humboldt County, Arcata, California. She's a Slow Flowers member and a chapel designer. She worked with 1,500 stems of irises that were provided by Sun Valley Farm. And she decided, I think appropriately, to not cover the model's bodice with irises because she might have looked like the Michelin Man. But, using a ballet top with a full skirt and then this beautiful shawl or stole, she calls it, really showcased a beautiful palette of a flower that we sort of don't pay attention to very much.
Right.
And it's beautiful.
It really
is. And then we have one more, which is our Hawaii photo shoot. And again, I love that we have Alaska and Hawaii because those are sometimes on the fringes of our sourcing just because of the location. But Hawaii, especially with so many destination weddings, I was thrilled that Allison Higgins and Nicole Cordier of Grace Flowers Hawaii on the Big Island jumped on board when I asked them to create a photo shoot. They went way beyond what I envisioned because I love that they had a male and a female model. They used all flowers, botanicals, herbs, and tropicals grown on the Big Island, and created these amazing textiles with deconstructed flowers and headpieces. So that's our fifth look. And these will all be available at AmericanFlowersWeek.com. floristweek.com, where we have downloadable social media graphics that everybody's able to use. And then there'll be full spreads of these photo shoots in the June issue of Florist Review, which will be out really soon. And then the digital version has like 10 extra bonus pages. So
Nice.
It's exciting. And there we go. That's a better look peek at that dress.
Beautiful.
And Hedda did a really cool kind of reverse ombre, and she was inspired by the palette of the time, which were flames all around them and flames into kind of ash. So it's poignant to reflect what was going on at that period of time last October.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Get the full look of the irises. I love this very much, and I love that Faye planted, quote unquote, irises in the ground to create this meadow. She's actually really excited because she said that now she can show this to a bride, and she can convince a bride who's having an outdoor wedding to let her do something like this, which I love.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
I know. It's a wonderful idea. The majesty of two really good friends of the designers who are involved in the Hawaiian culture and performances as artists, and they were really good sports to model. Oh, yeah. I mean, to me, they look like royalty, Hawaiian royalty.
It's really, for sure. Wow.
Oh, here we go.
That's cute.
Ashley next to a boat. And Kelly Shore was like, I am going to find a boat that says Homer on the back. And we were like trespassing, I swear. Like, we had no permission to go down there in these boats. And I'm like, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Someone will kick us out. And we had a blast. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's so fun. It's cute.
I know. And there's the woodland gown.
I love that.
I do too. And
I don't know which one is my favorite. It's hard to pick. Yeah,
and this one you'll see the full on look. And we're gonna release all these photos on June 1st once they hit Florist Review. I'm a proud mama though, because my son Alex, who's 21, who's an advertising and photography student, shot this for me last winter.
Wow.
Yeah, I had to pay him, but that's what moms do. So
right.
He did a wonderful job. Yeah,
he did.
So American Flowers Week is exciting, and it's a really free marketing tool that anyone can participate in. And I just encourage you to check out AmericanFlowersWeek.com, where all those resources and details are. And now that we're heading up close, we're only like a month out, I'll add more resources for people. And then can I talk about one more thing, Yvonne?
Of course.
In the heart of American Flowers Week is the Slow Flowers Summit. And here's a graphic just to kind of give you a little bit of something to remember when you see this online and you see me talking about it. And you see the light bulb here. It's about floral ideas. That's where our beautiful graphic came from. The summit is basically a one-day symposium in the heart of American Flowers Week, bringing together progressive florists, farmer florists, and leaders of the industry to talk about new models for being successful in sort of this slow flowers ethos as a florist and a designer and a wedding and event planner or a wedding and event designer. It's our second year. We're going to be in Washington, D.C. Co-located with the American Institute of Floral Designers, their symposium. They've given us a meeting space and are hosting us for the day before their conference starts.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm really psyched. Our keynote speaker is Christina Stembel of Farm Girl Flowers, and she's going to talk about scaling your business, which I think everybody's watched what she's done and thought, how do I get a piece of that secret sauce? And so I think it's going to be really wonderful. And then we have people like Kelly Shore and Mary Kate Kinane, who I had on Instagram Live yesterday, talking about how they source from a combination of working with a wholesaler and working with farmers to use local and American grown and seasonal product. They're going to do a designs demo. And then two of my favorite designers from LA, Kit Wirtz and Casey Schwartz, who are sisters, who own Flower Duet.
Yep.
They're big Mayesh customers in LA.
Yeah, we love them.
Yeah, they're going to talk about creating a diversified floral business with multiple channels of services. And I'm excited. I'm so excited they said they were going to come. They grew up in Washington, D.C., so their mom is there and their mom and dad. And so they're kind of feeling like it's a homecoming. They're literally inviting people they went to high school with to come to the summit. I don't know how that's going to go. And then I mentioned Jonathan Weber of Green Center. Jonathan and Jessica Hall from Harmony Harvest Farm. She's also the genius behind Floral Genius, the American-made frog company. And then Christina Stembel. They're going to do a panel on new models of moving product from point A to point B. And Jonathan works in technology. He's got all kinds of stories he's going to tell about, how is the driverless car going to get your flowers delivered? And
I want to hear that.
I know. Jessica's going to talk about how a small farm can actually ship flowers and create a different business channel. And then Christina's going to just talk about this much larger scale shipping and delivery and sourcing piece of that puzzle from Farm Girl's point of view. And then we have some really fun focus on urban flower farming with a guy named Walker Marsh from Baltimore. He has the Flower Farm, and he's an urban flower farmer in Baltimore doing some really cool community-based projects. And he's going to be partnered with Mud Barron of Flowers on Your Head. And Mud was an attendee last year at the summit and did the photo shoots with all of our attendees for their own Flowers on Their Head portrait. And he's going to talk a little bit about that, how that has blown up for him as a brand and a vehicle for talking about flower farming and urban agriculture. And it's going to be great. That's a lot in one day. So I hope you join me. And that link is slowflowerssummit.com. See, Yvonne, I do need one organizing website because I have all these different websites. You
do have a lot of websites.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get it. We're going to get disciplined and bring it all under one umbrella pretty soon. So I hope I see you all there. It'll be really, fantastic.
It sounds amazing. So what day is that on exactly?
It's a Friday, June 29th.
June 29th.
And that is the date that AIFD gave us the space.
Great.
Come and then run home and deliver your wedding on Saturday. Or actually, people are telling me they're off that weekend. They don't have a wedding and they're coming and turning it into a family vacation. So we were in Seattle last year, so I think it's really good to be on the East Coast, and we'll see what happens after this. But I'm pretty excited. And if you're interested in coming, this is the week to buy your ticket because we're running a special ticket promotion through Sunday, May 20th. And anybody who buys a ticket in the month of May up until the 20th gets put into a drawing for a special evening to go hear Laura Dowling, the former White House florist, at a intimate gathering. And it's a fundraiser for AIFD Foundation, but I have 2 tickets. I'm going and I'm bringing one guest with me from that drawing. So
that's awesome.
It'll be really fun. And that's a very DC kind of thing to do. Hearing her talk about floral diplomacy. So you can get those. Yeah, right. We need that right now. Right. You can get the information either at just come to slowflowerssummit.com and buy your ticket, and you'll be put into that drawing. So I don't know what else to add, but
let me get that up real quick. Slow Flowers Summit. Did I do that right? Let's see.
2 S's, some flowers plural, and then summit. Yeah, it's kind of.
Yeah. Let me put that up on the screen for you guys. Yeah. I don't hit end broadcast by accident again.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and just reach out to me if you have any questions. I appreciate you having me on, Yvonne.
This is awesome.
Generous.
So they can go to slowflowerssummit.com, find out more about Slow Flowers, get your tickets, get in that drawing, because how amazing would that be? To go on this special evening with Debra and be her guest, her +1. I love that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so after all this talk about slow flowers and your passion, are you a floral designer? Can you design flowers?
Yes. Of course, as I said, I hinted earlier, my undergraduate degree is in textile design, and I always had this sort of idea that I'm a journalist and I just write about other creative people. And doing the book called Slow Flowers, which came after the 50 Mile Bouquet, was sort of my experiment in learning how to own it, right? And just say, yeah, I'm a creative person, and I don't have to be the objective third party rating about someone else. I can actually do this myself. And so I take immense pleasure in doing floral arranging as often as possible, using fresh local ingredients that either I've grown or I've harvested from a friend's garden or I buy from local farmer friends. And yeah, so occasionally I get pressed into service for weddings. I've designed both my niece's weddings. I have a friend getting married this summer who's old friend who's undemanding and will take whatever I give for, create for her. So I'm doing an island wedding in August. But yeah, you know what I think? Coming from a gardener's point of view, there was this period of time where I felt like I couldn't cut anything in my garden because I designed this beautiful garden and I didn't want to denude, any plant. I didn't want to leave a naked hydrangea without flowers. But I've kind of gotten over that. And now every plant I look at, I'm like, can I cut that and put it in a vase? And so I'm building a new garden. So I'm being a little bit cautious to not over harvest because I want this thing to get bigger. But like I have a snowball viburnum that I planted last year with one flower on it. Now there's 40. So stuff grows in Seattle. We got we have a different kind of moisture than you in Miami, but yes, I love nothing more than to turn off the computer, turn off the phone, go out in the garden and just play around with a bucket of flowers. That's awesome. It's my favorite thing to do.
Okay, so I have one other question. So not floral related or garden related. Tell me something that you're obsessed with right now. Like what do you love outside of the world of flowers?
Okay, I'll tell you. It's hand lettering.
Yeah.
I took a couple classes from a woman who's become a friend here in Seattle. Her business is called Paper Delights. Her name is Alicia Olson. And she teaches modern calligraphy, which is like, we call it the messy bun of calligraphy. Like it's not so precise with that metal nib. Right. And so, so I've been doing some of that and learning how to do, place cards and wrapping paper and that kind of thing. But I wanted to try to expand my portfolio of skills. And a friend of mine got me excited about this thing going on right now called the 100-Day Project. If you search the hashtag 100-Day Project, 100-Day Project, you will see mind-blowing art and creative things that people are doing. It started on April 3rd and it goes through, I think, July 11th. It's a 100 days. It's a way to do a mindful, artistic, creative practice every day. And so my friend Lorene Edwards-Faulkner, who's the editor of Pacific Horticulture Magazine, has done it for 3 years. And she kind of told me what it was all about, got me into it. So every day I hand letter a botanical word, and then I do a flat lay photography project with that. So today, or I haven't done today's yet. Yeah. So if you go onto my personal Instagram, which is DK Prinzing, you'll see an entire grid of like 40 of these things. There is a photo of my boys and me on Mother's Day. It kind of messes up the grid, but whatever. Yesterday I had, right now I'm doing color analogies. So different ways to say color that are creative. So don't say red, say vermilion. Don't say purple, say aubergine. And like I'm trying to use my writing skills to come up with interesting words and then hand letter them with different fun pens and paper and then do the floral flat lace. So that's sort of my new
I'm looking
obsession.
at it now. That's so cool. I had no
really
idea.
Fun.
I have a hard time keeping track of everyone on Instagram, but this is amazing.
Well, if you follow the hashtag 100-Day Project, you will you'll see quilters, you'll see illustrators, you'll see photographers, you'll see people doing really, little animated things. It's very much for visual art. And what's the point of it, as my husband would ask? I am learning how to hand letter without like gripping the pen so tight that it looks struggling. I'm trying to be more fluid, and I know I'll use that for Instagram and social media and blog posts and PowerPoint presentations. I know I'll use those skills down the road and kind of change it up a little bit. So, and it's not too late to get involved. I mean, it's a free thing. It's like millions of people around the world are participating. So you can just jump in and just start late. I mean, I don't think there's no rules, but I'm enjoying it.
Like so much fun. I love this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I spend all day thinking about, well, two things. I go out in my garden and I'm observing, like, what have I not used yet that I could use in this flat lay? And then what emerging theme is there in color or in botanical form? Like, I've done things like umbel or panicle or disc and ray, like these terms that are used in floristry or in botany. And then, I think about it all day before I actually do it. And so it's sort of a nice little meditative thing too.
Awesome. Well, it was amazing having you on the show, Debra. Thank you so much. And do you have any last words for everyone?
Oh, Yvonne, I just thank you so much for supporting what I'm doing and for being a friend. And I just adore everyone at Mayesh. I'm glad Allie Dawson's here in Seattle, so I see her from time to time. And I appreciate the partnership. And I feel like I can't do anything without collaboration. And I feel like that's sort of a prevailing theme that we're all experiencing anyway in this connected world. So, just being able to share my story pretty soon on, maybe I'll turn the tables on you and get you to come on the podcast. How does that sound?
Oh, I would love it. That would be fun.
That'd be great. I've had Pat Dawson on the podcast, and he was adorable and really, really fun to hear his personal story. And that's the other thing is, it's just, it's all about connection. So I thank you for having me on. Yeah. And I thank everybody for hanging in there and listening today. And, I look forward to seeing you.
And I'm going to be sending this out to our email database, posting on the blog, and getting it up on YouTube. So,
great. Yeah. I look forward to seeing everybody. Yeah. And just, we'll find each other on Instagram or on, mostly Instagram, but Twitter too, or on the blog and connect that way. I know there's many friends are on this call. So thanks for hanging in there with us. And Yvonne, thanks for the wonderful morning. It's been great.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Debra. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Wow, we made it, guys. Thank you so much for listening in on my interview with Debra Prinzing. I hope you guys learned a ton from her. If you have any questions or want to connect with her, we'll post all the links to her websites, the Debra Prinzing, the Slow Flower Summit, and American Flower Week. And that way you guys can make sure that you can get involved, or if you have ideas that you want to share with her, trends that you're seeing, as she asked earlier, I'll make sure that we can get you guys connected. So I hope that you enjoyed it. Love to hear your feedback and let me know. And with that, make sure that you mark your calendar for May 29th. At 10 a.m. Eastern time. That is our next show. I will have Dave and Shelly on answering your floral questions with myself. So if you have questions, let us know. And that is it. It's time to wrap up. And of course, my Remington, my little Shar-Pei. One day I need to bring him on, right? So you guys can see this wrinkly, cute face that's making all the noise in the background. He did pretty good though for almost an hour. So it's time to wrap up. So first, if you're new to the show, I hope that you follow our channel, whether that's liking us on Facebook or subscribing to YouTube or subscribe to our email newsletter. So that way you are always in the know of what's going on. I would appreciate that. If you found value in our show, I hope that you share it with your flower friends, your floral enthusiast friends, your flower design groups. I know you guys are all there sharing with each other, sharing valuable information, so I would appreciate that. And finally, I just wanted to thank you again for coming and being a part of the show. And I love you guys. I will be back with you in a couple of weeks, so send in your questions and ask us anything. I hope you have a rocking day. See you soon. Bye, guys.